She walked onto the range like a ghost, quiet, unassuming, forgotten. But when the system scanned her hand, the name, Halcyon, lit up, and every laugh in the room died. This wasn't just a civilian. She was the operative they erased from history, and someone just woke her up. What followed wasn't a comeback, it was a reckoning. Welcome to my channel. They say folks show their stripes when the stakes are low, when they're just killing time and think nobody's watching. That's why it didn't surprise me much when I heard the kid's voice echo across the range that morning. You're lost, lady. This ain't a sightseeing stop. It's a live range. The comment drew some easy laughter from a group of fresh-faced recruits in mismatched gear, all of them too young to remember the last time this country saw a proper war. I didn't say a word. I just walked forward, slow and calm, wearing a windbreaker that still smelled faintly of salt water and gun oil. I made my way to the main console, where most folks check in for basic drills. Nobody gave me more than a glance. Just another civilian signing up to squeeze off a few rounds and post about it later. The facility, Copper Hill Range, was just south of Phoenix. Civilian accessible, military managed. A kind of testing ground where weekend warriors came to act tough and trainees came to learn the basics. All the noise of ambition and pretense and cheap bravado buzzed through the place like cicadas in July. At the intake counter, a young corporal named Tanner looked over my form, brow raised. Long-range drills. Ma'am, you sure? That's advanced level stuff. I gave him a mild nod. I'll manage. The corner of his mouth twitched, fighting off a grin. You ever handled a rifle before? Not as often as you'd think. That was all it took. The scoffs came from the back of the line. I heard one kid whisper, if she hits a target, I'll shine boots for a month. Another laughed loud enough for it to echo. She here for a selfie with a rifle rack? I didn't turn around. Just slipped my gloves off and tucked them into my back pocket. Thing is, I've been laughed at before. Doesn't bother me. What bothers me is how quick people are to assume. The uniform you wear. The scars they can't see. The way you hold yourself. Folks think they've got you pegged by the time you say your first word. But they don't know. They never know. I stood near the edge of the loading bay, waiting, watching. My boots were quiet against the concrete. My eyes caught the layout, the timing of the targets, the way the staff moved, who had real training and who was playing at it. I cataloged it all without effort. It was just instinct. The lead instructor was a stocky man in his 50s named Rick Tolman. Ex-Army, the kind who barked orders just to see who'd flinch. He read my request form and arched an eyebrow. Long range, he asked, his tone skeptical. Most civvies stick to close targets. You sure you don't want to ease into this? I'm sure, I said quietly. Tolman nodded, clipped and casual. Your dime. Just don't say we didn't warn you when your shots go wide. Also, maybe don't point anything at the other guests, yeah? More laughter. It rolled off me like rain on a windshield. When it was my turn, I didn't head for the gun rack. I didn't need to. I went straight to the biometric console, one they only used for internal drills and rank personnel. I rested my palm on the reader. The screen blinked. And then everything changed. Red light flared. The console gave off a low hum. Words filled the screen in bold, unblinking type. Call sign, Halcyon. Status, reactivated. Clearance level, Tier 6, authorized. The chatter behind me died mid-sentence. Even Tolman, who'd been mid-conversation with another trainer, turned slowly. What the hell? The system shouldn't have accepted me. Not with a civilian ID. Not on an open range. But the console didn't care. It remembered. And some things, when burned deep enough, don't forget. The silence spread like a ripple in still water. A younger staffer, pale-faced, backed away from the control desk. Halcyon? No way. That's not. She can't be. Then the door at the far end opened. A figure stepped through. Commander Arlo Green. 40 years in, 3 combat theaters under his belt. The kind of man who didn't spook easy. But when he saw me, his jaw clenched. His eyes darkened. You, he said, voice dry with disbelief. You're still alive? And just like that, the whole room changed. Because now, they knew who they were looking at. They remembered the stories. Or at least the rumors. The woman who walked her unit out of fire-blasted ruins during Operation Industrial and never came back. Who disappeared off every military grid. Presumed Kia. No records. No funeral. Just whispers. Halcyon was a code name they passed around in Black Ops halls, in after-action briefings, and in field survival lectures under the title, When Everything Else Fails. And now she was standing here in a windbreaker, quiet as ever, waiting her turn at the firing line. You could hear a pin drop across the range. Every pair of eyes, from rookies to staff, had locked on me like I'd stepped out of a war story they didn't believe was real. Commander Green approached, slow and deliberate. He stopped just short of me, his gaze fixed, voice low. "You were declared MIA in 13, he said. "Industrial sector. Nobody made it out of there. Not alive." I gave a small nod, neither confirming nor denying. That's the trick. If you say too much, people want names, timelines, proof. And there are places in this world where proof gets people killed. "I made it out," I said, voice steady. Behind Green, Tolman muttered, "I thought Halcyon was a ghost story." "Ghosts don't trip Tier 6 biometrics," Green snapped. The console screen was still active behind me, a quiet flicker of red lines running like veins across the display. Protocols were unlocking, one by one. Most of the staff had never even seen this part of the system run. Tolman stepped closer, brow furrowed. "What does it mean, Tier 6? Green didn't look away from me. "It means what she did isn't written anywhere you've got clearance to read." And then he added, like he was remembering it out loud, "Halcyon wasn't a team. It was one person, one operative. No backup, no air support, no retrieval." By now, half the range had gone quiet. People lowered their weapons, some even stepped back. The kid who'd made the selfie joke earlier, his face had turned to ash. We didn't know," he stammered. "You weren't meant to," I said quietly. "That's the point." I turned back to the console. The system had stopped running, awaiting confirmation. A field of options lay open: classified training drills, threat response modules, precision mapping simulations. Stuff way beyond this facility's normal scope. Tolman stared at the screen like it might bite him. "Ma'am, I don't even have access to most of this. We've never run half these scenarios." Green nodded slowly. "That's because they weren't built for training. They were built for survival. One-person missions. Zones where no extraction's coming. No one even looks for you when the clock runs out." I pulled my gloves back on, each finger sliding in with practiced ease. Real leather. Faded, worn smooth along the palms. Not from sitting in closets. From years of crawling through jagged terrain, scaling outposts, holding pressure on wounds that wouldn't stop bleeding. Someone in the back whispered, "So what now?" I glanced over at the weapon rack, then back at Tolman. "You still allow civilian drills here?" He blinked. "Why, yes, ma'am. Technically speaking." "Good," I said, stepping past him. "Then let's see if I still remember 900-meter patterns." His eyes went wide. "You sure? That's not just advanced. That's..." But I was already halfway to the line. Picked up a standard-issue long-range rifle. No custom mods. No scope recalibration. I didn't need it. The weight felt familiar in my arms, like an old conversation that picked up mid-sentence. Downrange, targets auto-deployed. I keyed in a sequence. Wind variables. Range depth. Adjusted for light. Then I took a breath. And fired. One shot. Dead center. 6 more followed. Each one a whisper of movement. No delay, no correction. Just breath. Pull. Cycle breath. Like a metronome synced with my heartbeat. The system registered every shot with a muted tone. On the central monitor, the word appeared in blue. Pattern recognized. Signature match confirmed. Halcyon, active. Tolman stepped forward, mouth slightly open. I've coached Olympians. National shooters. Nobody pulls that kind of accuracy cold." "That's the thing," Green said beside him, voice distant. "She's not pulling anything. She's just remembering." The range wasn't a place for jokes anymore. It had turned into a monument of silence, like everyone was waiting for something else to break the spell. I returned the rifle, locked it back into place, then turned to leave. "Wait," Tolman said. We should know what happened to your team. You were never accounted for." My steps faltered. Then I turned, slowly. "There was no team," I said. "Not that time. Just me." Mission was asset retrieval, an engineer with a prototype guidance core. The intel was trash. It was a setup. Green's voice was like gravel. "You're saying you went in alone?" "I didn't plan it that way." I paused, letting the memory flash behind my eyes. Insertion was clean. Exit point compromised. Whole valley turned hot before the second hour. The engineer took a bullet in the first mile. I carried him through 6. Someone in the crowd whispered, 6 miles? I looked at him. Through sand. And smoke. and people who'd been paid a lot of money to make sure we didn't leave breathing. Silence again. Then Ortega, one of the older range sergeants, stepped forward. But you made it out. Eventually. And the asset? Alive. Last I checked, he teaches propulsion systems at MIT. Has no idea who dragged him through that canyon. Just remembers a shadow with steel eyes. Tolman swallowed. Why come back now? I considered that for a second. To see if the system still remembered me, I said. Turns out it does. Then I left the rifle where it stood. Because some tools, they don't belong in your hands anymore. You carry their weight in different ways. By the time I walked back toward the benches, the recruits had gone still. Like statues. Every whisper, every side-eye, every cocky smirk from earlier had vanished. The system screen still blinked with red lines behind me, waiting for someone, anyone, with the clearance to acknowledge the unlocked sequence. But nobody moved. Except for Sergeant Darnell Ortega. He'd been quiet this whole time, leaning against the back wall like a man nursing old memories. The second my call sign lit up the console, I saw it in his eyes, recognition. Not just from files, but from the kind of history you only carry in scars. He stepped forward, slow, respectful. 12 years, he said, voice heavy. They said you were gone. MIA, presumed Kia. Official record locked and archived. Not locked enough, I said. That console still knows me. He nodded. Some machines remember better than people. Maybe they don't have the same incentive to forget. I gave him a quiet smile. You were at Camp Rollins, weren't you? The winter op with the calm blackout? He blinked, stunned. You were there? That snowstorm. We lost a chopper trying to extract the forward team. You didn't lose it, I said. I flew it out. You? His mouth opened, then closed again. That pilot wore full blackout gear. No ID, no flight plan, just took control and left. I had orders, not the kind they keep in paperwork. Ortega looked like a man seeing a ghost for the second time. That's when Green returned, carrying a tablet in one hand. You better see this. He turned the screen toward Ortega and me. It showed my full dossier, what little had survived the redactions. Halcyon, single unit deployment specialist. Confirmed missions, 14. Known surviving witnesses, 0. Ortega muttered. Green nodded. It wasn't just what she did. It was how she did it. The missions weren't recorded because they weren't supposed to happen. No footprints. No drone footage. Just results. Quiet ones. I studied the screen, recognizing fragments of my own past. The way it had been stripped down to bullet points and blurred code. But there was something new blinking at the bottom of the file. An alert I hadn't seen before. Status. Reactivated. Last known directive. Exfil Raven asset. Operator status. MIA/presumed dead. Reclassification pending. Looks like the machine just updated your status, Green said. I looked at him. I didn't ask it to. You didn't have to, he said. It's protocol. Biosignature match reactivates legacy handlers. Which means? Ortega asked. It means, Green said slowly, she's back on the radar now. Whoever buried her file, whoever ordered it wiped, they're going to know she just resurfaced. That was when I felt it again, that hum. The one that tells you things are moving faster than you can see. This range, I said, how secure is it? Green hesitated. Secure enough for trainees. Not for ghosts. I nodded. Then we need to pull the server logs. See who's pinged the file since activation. Green turned toward the back room, already calling to his IT guy. And just like that, I was back in it. I'd walked in that morning just looking to make sure I still had my edge. Instead, I'd rattled the door of a cage someone thought was locked forever. Back in the common room, a few of the younger soldiers gathered around the board, pretending to study their drills. But I could feel their attention on me. One of them stepped forward. The kid from earlier, Keller, I think his patch said. Still pale, still shaken, but trying to stand straight. Ma'am, he said, voice shaking slightly. I was out of line earlier. We all were. I nodded. You weren't the first. He swallowed hard. It's just, we didn't think someone like you would show up here. No one ever does, I said. That's kind of the point. Keller rubbed the back of his neck. They say you led a team called Black Cedar. That true? I stiffened slightly. So some of the rumors had made it further than I thought. Black Cedar isn't real, I said flatly. Never existed. Not officially. Ortega's voice cut in. But if it had existed, It would have been the unit sent into blackout zones where even satellites shut down. I said nothing, because saying anything else would mean confirming things that were never supposed to be said out loud. Green returned, face grim. "We've got a ping," he said. "A trace from a private server in Langley. Someone accessed your file less than 2 minutes after activation. High priority, alert flagged." "That fast," Ortega said. "That fast," Green confirmed. "And they didn't just look, they copied it. Encrypted clone dropped into a black note off-site." I pulled my jacket closed. The message was clear. They hadn't forgotten me. They were just waiting for me to come back. The coldest part of coming back isn't the people who don't recognize you. It's the ones who do. Green pulled the data trace onto the main monitor. Everyone in the control room leaned in as cascading lines of code swept across the screen. An outbound ping, encrypted twice, masked in a way that only one type of agency used. Ortega breathed. "Langley." Green nodded. "NSA node. Bounced to Fort Meade. Then it vanishes, like it knew how we'd try to follow it." That told me 2 things. First, the people watching me weren't surprised to see my signal reactivate. Second, they were ready the moment it did. A ghost file was never supposed to be touched again once archived. It meant the mission, the operator, and everything tied to it had been burned from existence. But someone had just peeled back the lid and copied it. "Why now?" Green asked. 12 years and no movement. Then this. "Because ghosts are only useful when the lights start flickering." And I had a gut feeling someone upstairs had started flipping breakers. Ortega opened a second panel, his hands surprisingly quick for a man who usually barked orders and trained rookies. "I've still got access to Northern Logistics," he said. "Maybe I can see if any of your old code names are showing up on manifests." Green turned to me. "Do you want to vanish again? I can bury this activation signal. Might be messy, but..." "No," I said. "It's too late for that. Because the moment someone knows you're alive, they don't just want to track you. They want to use you. And I'd rather meet them on my feet than wait for the knock at 2 a.m. The recruits were quiet now, not just out of respect, out of fear. They'd seen the power of a system remembering something it wasn't meant to. And I don't blame them. I didn't want this file open, either. Black Cedar, the unit I never officially led, the missions that never officially happened, those weren't just stories erased from the logs. They were ghosts that had followed me through every sleepless night since. The last one, Raven's exfil, was supposed to be a clean pickup. A scientist embedded deep behind a corporate firewall that fronted for a covert weapons developer. The intel was solid, the route clear, until it wasn't. They sent 3 of us in. Only I came out. Or so they said. The file on the screen listed the others as Kia. But the system's auto-refresh now listed a discrepancy. A tiny line at the bottom, barely visible. Asset Raven, status, unknown. My pulse skipped. Because that line wasn't there 12 years ago. Ortega leaned closer. "What the hell is that?" Green whispered. "Wait, are they saying the asset didn't make it out?" "No," I said. "It means maybe. I wasn't the only one who lived." That changed everything. "Pull up exfil Raven," I said. "The raw logs. Not the summaries." Green hesitated. "That would take tier 7. I gave him a look. "Or you give me a terminal in 5 minutes. He didn't argue. I stepped into the back office. Metal walls, blinking servers, the faint hum of fluorescent lights above. I slid into the chair, wiped a decade of dust off the keyboard with the edge of my sleeve, and started typing. The commands weren't in English. Not the kind anyone here would know. I hadn't used this language since the day I was declared dead. But muscle memory doesn't forget. 3 minutes in, the screen flickered and a file unsealed. Exfil Raven. Operator, Halcyon. Target, Asset R, 8N/codename Raven. Status, recovered, unconfirmed. Final signal trace, relay grid delta, 4:38 minutes post-exfil. That line stopped me. Raven sent a signal? I whispered. Green, standing just behind me, leaned in. "Wait, you told us Raven was unconscious when you carried him out." "He was." Ortega spoke from the doorway. "But that grid point, delta, isn't that outside the evac corridor?" "It is," I said slowly. And I felt it then. That cold twist of something slipping between the cracks of what you thought you knew. That maybe what you escaped wasn't just a trap. Maybe it was a test. A knock came at the back door. Not the front gate. Not the range access point. The back. Green reached for his sidearm. Ortega stepped up behind me. I turned to the nearest camera feed. A single figure stood at the access fence. Civilian jacket. Baseball cap pulled low. Holding up a badge. The facial recognition scanner tagged him. Match. Operator level black. Clearance lambda. Name. Redacted. Status. External Audit Division. Inactive. Inactive. Just like me. Until now. Who is he? Green asked. But I already knew. Because once upon a time, he'd been my handler. The one who vanished right before everything went sideways in Raven's exfil. And now he was here. They let him in without a word. Mostly because I gave the nod. The moment the door buzzed open, he stepped through like he'd never stopped walking through doors like this. Same flat expression. Same stride. Purposeful, but not rushed. Eyes like dull razors. He looked older, sure. Grayer at the temples. A little more meat around the jaw. But the thing that hadn't changed was the way the air seemed to chill around him when he entered a room. Like a pressure drop. Like the weather knew he was dangerous. He stopped 3 paces from me, left hand still in his coat pocket, right hand holding a folded file. Kira, he said. Not Halcyon. Not operative 0 to 9. Just my real name. I hadn't heard it in 12 years. Roth, I answered. Even saying his name felt like lighting a fuse. Ortega and Green stood back, watching us like a standoff might break out. I figured the system ping would bring someone, I said. Didn't think it'd be you. He handed me the file. You were the only one it ever remembered. I didn't open it right away. Just stared at the seal on the cover. Black wax, cracked but unbroken. Raven's old insignia. A stylized feather. I'd drawn it myself, back when we thought we were untouchable. You never came for the exfil, I said. After I crossed the second ridge, I waited 6 hours. No signal. No recovery. No nothing. We were told you were compromised, Roth replied, tone even. I got pulled before I could override the abort. They scrubbed the op within 24 hours. Yeah, I said. I know. I read my own death notice. He nodded once. No apology. No emotion. Just a field agent speaking in truths too hard to wrap in sympathy. You've been ghosted for 12 years, he said. And now you're awake again. You think that happened by accident? I narrowed my eyes. Start talking. Roth walked to the edge of the room and tapped into Green's console with his own credentials. The access level was deep, way past anything I'd ever been allowed to see, even at my peak. Files unfurled like a collapsing umbrella. Sat recon footage. Flight manifests. Cell tower pings in regions marked red. But the centerpiece was a name, Project Falkren. I felt a chill roll up my spine. Raven's tech, Roth said. It didn't vanish like they said. It went underground. He destroyed the prototype. I snapped. I saw it burn. Roth shook his head. You saw what he wanted you to see. Green, hovering nearby, muttered. What the hell was it? Roth replied, guidance cores. AI-assisted directional recalibration systems. In simple terms, tech that lets a drone swarm navigate without GPS, without satellite input, without failsafes. Blind and lethal, Ortega said under his breath. Exactly, Roth said. Raven didn't just build it. He improved it. And he didn't die out there. He got extracted by a third party. I stepped back. That's impossible. The sector was locked. We cleared every exit. They made their own, Roth said. With our exfil codes. That's when I realized what he was saying. They used my codes? He nodded. Your voice print. Your command ID. Everything. Spoofed through a stolen relay. We didn't catch it until last month, when the same signature showed up in a supply chain audit in Kaliningrad. Green looked at me. You've been framed. Worse, Roth said. They're waking up old assets tied to your file. Not to expose you, but to cover their trail. People who worked under you. People who ran ops alongside you. They're dying. One by one. He turned back to me. And now that your signature's live again, they're going to come for you. I exhaled slowly. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't ghosts. It was housekeeping. They were cleaning the slate. What's in the file? I asked, nodding to the wax-sealed envelope he'd handed me. Names, Roth said. One of them is still alive. XCOM handler named Sasha Breyer. She was listed as dead after the Bogota strike. But she reappeared in Warsaw under a new ID 3 weeks ago. She's on the move. Might know where Raven is. And you want me to find her? I said. I want you to do what only you can, he replied. And if I don't? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because we both knew what followed a reactivation wasn't a request. It was a leash. And someone had just fastened the other end. I walked out of the room without another word. Outside, the range was quiet again. The sun hung low over the Arizona horizon, spilling rust-colored light across the gravel. I stared at the sky for a long time. 12 years ago, I made a choice. I walked into hell to save someone who might have never been real. Now I had to walk back in to find out what they'd become. I left Copper Hill before dawn. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't explain. Just slipped into the desert air and started driving east. The file Roth gave me sat on the passenger seat, sealed no longer. Inside, one photo, 3 lines of coordinates, and a single name written in block letters, Sasha Breyer. Warsaw, Poland. Then Prague. Then silence. Until last week, when a ghost signal, barely a blip, registered near Dubrovnik. Encrypted burst. Old Halcyon channel. Mine. She was calling to someone. Or daring someone to follow. I took a red-eye flight under a burner ID and landed in Croatia before noon. No weapons, no support. Just a rented motorcycle and the weight of too many years spent hiding from what I used to be. By sunset, I was off-road, tracing the edge of a crumbling coastal town built into the cliffs. Quiet place. No cameras. No tourists. Breyer had picked her hideout well. I found her on the 3rd floor of an abandoned signal tower, sitting in the dark like she'd been waiting all along. Kira, she said without turning. 12 years, and you still walk like a sniper. You still broadcast like a rookie, I replied. She chuckled, dry and thin. They burned me too. Tried to pin the Serbia leak on my old alias. And Raven? Her smile vanished. That's why you're here. We talked for 2 hours. Not about the past, about the present. About Falkren, the tech that should have died in the sand, but didn't. The last time she saw Raven, he was being pulled into a black van by men with blank patches. No flag. No insignia. Not foreign. Not ours, either. They used your voice print, she said. It was clean. Synthetic. But built off a live sample. From Industrial. I froze. That would mean someone had access to your body cam logs. After the op. After the system declared you dead. That kind of access only came from inside. We weren't dealing with survivors. We were dealing with traitors. Where's Raven now? I asked. She hesitated, then handed me a burner drive. There's a name. A contact. Off-grid comms runner based in the Alborz Mountains. Iranian side. If Raven's still alive, he'd use this guy to move. What's the catch? She looked me dead in the eye. The contact's ex-Black Cedar. I took the drive. The mountain air bit hard as I stepped back into the fading daylight. Looks like I wasn't the only ghost that made it out. The Alborz Mountains don't welcome strangers. They wait them out. Freeze them. Test them. 12 hours after I crossed the Turkish border, I was hiking through fog so thick it blurred the difference between memory and reality. Each step took me deeper into terrain that never forgot blood. The contact Breyer mentioned went by the name Vahid. Ex-Cedar, listed Kia in '08. That made 2 of us. I found his safe house carved into rock, an old telecommunications bunker, converted and buried. Infrared shields. Hand-cranked generator. This man didn't just hide. He erased himself. A voice called through the darkness before I even knocked. Come alone or don't come at all. I've been alone, I called back. 12 years. You think I forgot how? A pause. Then the steel door creaked open. Vahid was older than I remembered. Beard streaked gray. Limp in his left leg. But his eyes, those hadn't changed. They still scanned you like a targeting system. Still hunted for lies. He studied me. You were the one they said died, he said. But you didn't. No, I answered. And neither did Raven. That got his attention. Last I saw, he was cuffed, bleeding, and in the back of a van, he said. You see who took him? Didn't need to. They were the same people who buried Cedar. Our people. I handed him the burner drive. He plugged it in. The screen filled with location pings, encrypted bursts, and a single decoded phrase. Sigma holds the core. Vahid leaned back. It's real, then. Falkren lives. Where? I asked. He hesitated. There's a place. Caspian Coast. Decommissioned refinery, converted into a ghost site. No heat sigs. No surface comms. But something's active down there. Deep. And it pings Sigma protocols. Think Raven's inside. He nodded. Or what's left of him. I prepped to leave at first light. Vahid handed me a weapon wrapped in oiled cloth, an old M88, modified. Only 3 shots, he said. Make M count. I checked the rounds. One was engraved. A message, like the one I carried all those years ago. One is enough. I didn't ask what he meant, because deep down, I already knew. I reached the Caspian coast under moonlight. The refinery was exactly what Vahid said. Dead on the surface, but the quiet kind of dead. The kind that watches you. Chain-link fencing rusted to dust. Towers collapsed inward like they'd bowed to something deeper underground. But beneath it all, there was heat. Buried tech. Old infrastructure gone black. And one signal, faint but steady. Sigma. I breached through a drain line and made my way through corroded tunnels, flashlight low, heartbeat lower. The layout was wrong for oil work, too compartmentalized, too sterile. This wasn't a plant. It was a vault, and something was still alive in there. 2 levels down, I found the first camera. Not aimed at an entrance, aimed at me. Tracking. I was expected. I moved faster after that, keeping right, hugging the dark. The final stairwell led to a reinforced door. A biometric scanner blinked red, then green the moment my shadow hit it. Access granted. Halcyon. And inside, sitting in a dim-lit room wired with servers and oxygen lines, was Raven. Older, paler, but very much alive. And not surprised. 12 years, he said. You were dead, I said back. So were you. I stepped closer. Why? He looked away. Because they let me live if I made it work. You built Falkren for them? He nodded slowly. They took the shell. I made it better. Smarter. Smaller. Why? His voice dropped. Because I didn't think you'd come back. The room trembled slightly, like something was powering up deep below us. You came alone? He asked. I always do. He stepped back. Then you'll have to choose. I raised the M88, steady. Choose what? He looked at me, not with fear, but with guilt. I hardwired Falkren into myself. My neural map is the core. I blinked. You are Sigma. He nodded, and I realized what the final shot was for. I kept the M88 leveled. 3 shots. 1 engraved. 1 for defense. 1 for decision. And right now, all 3 felt heavier than anything I'd carried industrial. Raven, no. Qasim, his real name, stood unarmed. Not resisting. Just looking at me with eyes that had seen what mine had seen. Hell, maybe worse. I didn't ask them to take me, he said. I resisted. I fought. But you stayed, I said. 12 years. They used you. He nodded once. And now I want it undone. He moved toward a panel beside the wall. A nest of wires, a crude neural sync rig. Copper coils glinting faintly under low power. It's all here, he said. Every iteration of Falkren. Not clouded. Not distributed. Just local. In me. You hard-linked it to your brain, I said. To keep it from being copied. And now, you destroy the last copy. His voice didn't waver. Me. I stood frozen. Not because I couldn't. Because I knew what that meant. You could walk out, I said. Disappear. Like me. He smiled faintly. But you didn't disappear. You watched. You waited. You never stopped being who you are. You built a weapon, I snapped. I built a compass, he said. They twisted it. Then he knelt. Not pleading. Not surrendering. Accepting. I saved the promise, he said. That's all I ever wanted. One last choice, Kira. I raised the M88. He closed his eyes. And for the first time in 12 years, I heard my own heartbeat again. But I didn't pull the trigger. I turned, aimed at the server stack beside him, and fired. Once. Twice. Then paused. The final round, the engraved one, I placed on the floor. Destroy it yourself, I said. That's your weight to carry. He looked at me, stunned. You came here to end it, I said. But I came here to make sure the right thing survived. He smiled through tears, then picked up the round and nodded. As I walked away, the server lights dimmed behind me. He'd made his choice, and I'd made mine. I left the bunker before sunrise. Didn't look back. Some people say closure's a clean cut, a door that shuts with finality. But it's not. Closure is a hallway, long winding, full of doors you never open again. I rode east through broken valleys and silence thick enough to keep the memories in check. Raven, Qasim, had made his choice. The system he helped build was gone. For good this time. And that last round, it was still with him. Not as a bullet. As a promise. Back in the States, I didn't go home. I don't have one. I went north, to a town that doesn't show up on maps. Rented a room above a fishing store. Small window. Strong coffee. No questions. Ortega sent one message. Saw the flag go down on Sigma. You do this? I typed only 2 words in reply. It's done. A week later, Copper Hill Range posted something new on their far wall. A metal plaque. Small. No names. No insignia. Just 4 words. One is enough. No one said who put it there. No one needed to. Green retired quietly, handing the facility over to a younger CEO who didn't ask about legacy logins. Ortega went dark. Off-grid. Maybe hunting, maybe resting. Either way, he earned it. And me? I started walking again. Not running. Not hiding. Just moving. Watching. Listening. The system never closed my file. And I never went back to using my real name. But people like me, we aren't meant for medals. We're meant for moments. Moments where you do the right thing, even if no one claps. Even if no one knows. If you're ever in a place like Copper Hill and someone walks in quiet, eyes heavy, clothes plain, don't laugh. Don't judge. Just nod. Because some wars don't end with a flag. Some heroes don't return for applause. They return to make sure you never have to. And if you remember anything about me, don't make it the rifle. Or the file. Make it the silence. The kind that only exists because someone stood watch long after the mission ended.